Hello and welcome back to my Kerbal Space Program video series. Today we have a special guest, the Sun. So first things first, I do apologise for the slight hissing on my microphone. I'm not really sure what's causing it. Well, obviously the reason is the microphone isn't particularly great. It's a headset microphone, but turning down there was no decibel boost on it in the first video, and the hissing was there. And if I turn down the level of the microphone, the hissing just gets disproportionately quieter, equal to the level, until the point where I am completely inaudible, and it's still there, just about. So, what I'm doing in this video is I am launching up the space station part of the rocket. I'm launching up the entire station in one go, because I don't want to separate it with docking ports, because during thrusting to get to Jool and back, it will, well, I say Jool and back, to get to Jool, it's liable to shake itself apart if it's too long and the connections are not spread enough out. So what I'm doing here is I've launched it up into an orbit, and I noticed I was really badly inclined compared to the target, so I did a plane change maneuver. What I'm doing here is I'm doing a rendezvous. Now the ship I'm aiming for is at a 120 kilometer orbit, and I'm at 100. Now, I don't know the technical name for what this is, and when I went to look up the guide I followed to quote the author of it, the forums were down at the time. So all I can really explain is that I know how to do this maneuver in one specific circumstance, which is if your orbits are 20 kilometers apart, and you're in orbit of Kerbal, you need to wait until you are 50.4 kilometers away from the target ship, and then accelerate to bring your apoapsis up to match the targets, and that will get you a close encounter, and from there you can just adjust. As you can see, I did that there, and my encounter, admittedly I can't actually see it from full screen cam, but I think it was about 5 kilometers, something like that. That's quite a long way out, to be honest. Even for me, I usually average somewhere between 2 to 3 or 4 maybe. I have gotten as close as like sub 1 kilometer, but even in those cases I've generally had to do like a fair bit of manoeuvring, because I'm, as I said, I'm not particularly great at this. So yeah, it looks like 2.7 actually. That's a lot closer than I thought. So one thing that I didn't show was I undocked the booster stage that I used to get up, and I just turned it around and put it on a deorbit trajectory, and then didn't include that in the video because it wasn't particularly interesting to watch. So what I'm doing here now is I'm moving in to get closer. So what I'm doing is I'm boosting towards the pink marker, which is directly at the craft I'm aiming for, and then once I get a bit closer, I am aiming for the green marker with the triangle crossing it. I think that's the retrograde marker, I think that's the technical term for it, but I understand it as this is how to kill your velocity marker, and this is killing my velocity relative to the ship up there. So I do this a couple of times because I'm not terribly confident, and I like to do it in I just like to do it in steps because I find that easy to follow. There are some problems with this station, which I'll discuss more when we get a better view of it as I'm bringing stuff in. And there's also technically a problem with the lander, which is why I'm going to get a slightly altered one to put on the other docking port, which I'll discuss when we get a better look at it in a second. I think the reason I swapped over to that was to turn lights on before I realised that all the lights are on this anyway, because this is the station. But yeah, I'm still moving in at the moment, because 400 meters is quite close, but nowhere near close enough. Normally when I try to do sort of my docking insertion maneuvers, I try to get within about 100 to 200 meters before I really do anything else. Just get things nice and close and keep things simple. I'm doing all this without mods, so I don't have a docking cam or anything like that. So it's not easy, particularly the first time. It can be incredibly daunting, but once you understand how to do it, it's like fairly routine even for an idiot like me. So we can actually really clearly see the ship now, and I think we're about 250 meters away or something like that. So it was at this point that I couldn't quite decide whether or not I wanted to keep using this this sort of well, it's a lander stage, but that's not what I use it for at all. I really should take the landing. The reason it has landing legs actually is just so I can be sure that it lands safely at back on Kerbal whenever I do anything. I literally just use it as a little ferry stage for these, and the reason it has the big lander can on top is so that I can put 2 people in it, so I can do a crew transfer while I'm doing it if whatever mission I felt like doing needs it. So I've detached it, so I'm just controlling this purely by RCS now, resetting that as a target just so I can have the velocity up. Now what I want to do here is I want to dock this where the lander is currently on the ship. So what I'm going to do is I'm detaching this and I'm just going to boost it forwards and kill its velocity more or less and just leave it there. So I'm now going to bring this in, and I'm really hoping that the fact that part of the ship is facing away, so basically the 2 halves are facing towards each other, and I'm not sure which one is going to pick for working out where to boost for prograde and retrograde and for manoeuvres, and I'm really hoping that it's not going to be the part that's facing backwards, because that will make things a terrible pain in the ass. However, the way I've basically the lander units, although the rover not so much. I don't have the rover isn't designed yet, but I have a design in mind, so I might just put a docking port on the front just so it can do this as well. Is once I ditch the booster stage at the back, I will just detach the landers in turn and flip them around and put them back on so that they're facing the right direction. I'm hoping that it will be those, or at least one of those, that the actual direction is tied to. So I was coming in for my docking manoeuvre there, and I'm not entirely sure why I was trying to use WSA or D to change its angle, but my hand was like 1 key over too far, which is why I spazzed out horribly and moved everything away. So I'm just bringing it back in nice and gently now, and the magnetism kicks in, and after a bit of fumbling it connects. Now my next task is to quickly wing this in and attach this onto the docking ports. Now originally I thought, yeah, I'll just attach this to the top one, that'll be fine. And as I was manoeuvring around, I decided actually I really didn't want to do that. I figured I'd rather have the landers on the 2 bottom ones, because then it's kind of symmetrical, and that pleases me greatly. And I'll use the top one for the rover. Now, I'm not planning to land on Tylo, because I've heard that that's like the most difficult thing to land on, and I very much doubt that this little lander unit will be capable of it. So I'm planning to take this lander and have it go to either Bol or Pop. No, Pol or Bop, and depending on how fuel efficient it is, I might try and make it to both. But I'll be leaving a probe behind at each one that I visit, and I'll probably be leaving one around Jool, even though I already have a guy in a ship orbiting Jool where he's almost out of fuel. If he's lucky, I might try and dock him with the station actually, but it's a bit unlikely. I don't really have any experience docking on anything that isn't Kerbin's atmosphere, or sorry, in Kerbin's gravity. So we'll see. I am going to land on Val in theory, with the other lander, and I'm going to try and put the rover down on Lathe. Now what I'm doing here is I figure I'm going to move one of the crew over onto the station really, because there's a hitchhiker storage container there and it's completely empty, so I figure I'm going to just, this is actually something I meant to do once I'd actually gotten in the air and in orbit, but it completely skipped my mind, so I figure I'll just EVA over, because the jetpack has more than enough fuel. It's not a big distance, and it's actually easy and quite fun. So I'm just bringing him in now. I'm pretty sure this part of the video is also accelerated to 4 times speed, so that entire docking section previously was at 4 times normal speed, so it actually took like a fairly substantial amount of time, like maybe a third of the time there was like actually getting in close enough to start docking properly, because I'm not especially efficient at it. So just drifting in slowly and gently, we get a nice little look at the ship from an outside perspective as well. I haven't quite decided yet if I'm going to have Kerbal sit in the 2 landers and the rover for the flight over, or if I'm just going to put them all in the hitchhiker storage container. I might put them in each of the things just in case It uses those as the point of reference for which way the craft's facing. I haven't fully decided yet. I'll probably sort that out in a later video. But the crew hatch is on the bottom, based on the way I've set this up. So it would probably be kind of handy if I'd flip this around at some point, but it doesn't really matter because you can board from any angle. So the only thing left for me to do now in this section is to go back to the other little ship that I used to launch up the space station and ferry it into position, and deorbit it. So I get it into position and fire up the engines and go about doing that, and it was at this point that I had a sneaky little thought. I put this on a orbit inside the atmosphere and then stop, and I figure, actually, you know what would be kind of neat? If I could just hop this guy out and have him fly over. And this section is running at 4 times speed again because it actually took quite a while. One thing that I hadn't thought about at the time was I've just changed my orbital speed, and that made the actual ship like get quite far away from me. And it was only after I started this that I genuinely started to worry that I'd just abandoned this Kerbal out for his fate and he would just be left drifting in space forever alone. Luckily that wasn't the case. Like actually the jetpack is quite strong. And with that, I will see you in the next pass.